whoever's gonna kick it off.
All right, thank you all for having us today. We are delighted to be here with you. And let me say it is our pleasure, a privilege, that we are allowed to work with the city of Hoschton. March 28th, I think, marked our 9th year with the city of Hoschton. And we really appreciate y'all. Y'all are, we enjoy being part of the community. We enjoy our working relationship. Y'all are great to work with. We work with over 30 communities, and I'll tell you, y'all get things done. And y'all are very results oriented, and we like that because we are too. And I know particularly if you're a new city official, one of the most frustrating things in this business is how long it takes to get anything done. And believe me, I've been doing it for 4 decades. It does take longer to get anything done now than in the earlier days. The bureaucracy's grown, of course. More rules, more regulations. I guess if you're exposed to it over time, you don't realize until you really look at a project that was done maybe 20 years ago. It got done in 3 years, and now projects, take 4 to 5 years from when you first conceive them till you get them built. I guess one exception to that is our water tank project has gone very, very quickly. That's been very, very pleasing to watch that. We are talking about water supply, wastewater treatment, and stormwater management. These days we have to look at all 3 of those as individual utilities, as part of your enterprise fund. EPD looks at communities on a watershed-wise basis. Hoschton, of course, is in the Mulberry Basin. But being an MS4 community, you're responsible for water, wastewater, and stormwater. And you kind of look at the basin holistically. You're kind of in charge of your portion of the basin. The MS4, or the stormwater system that you've been involved with for the last 7 years, you've had to do a lot of mapping, you've done a lot of testing, a lot of public relations, and that sort of thing. But it's definitely a public utility, and I think y'all are charging some small fees now beginning this first year for your stormwater.
Yes.
Because it is an expensive thing to maintain. It's an expensive thing to follow all the regulations that we have to deal with. And we've seen this chart before. The United States of water, I think our water resources, especially in Northeast Georgia, are getting scarcer and scarcer. And it's one of the most important things in a community is having good, clean water for our folks. Also, fire protection becoming an increasingly important issue. Wastewater collection and wastewater treatment, as you know, is the key to sound quality growth. And then again, on our stormwater. Now, this is your presentation. This is your work session. We're here for complete dialogue. We're not trying to follow this as an agenda or anything. Anything that comes to your mind during this discussion, please bring it up. Let's talk about it. So you've all seen the spreadsheet. I think Joe Hayes has been maintaining for you over time. There's a copy of this in here, but based on the known developments and some of the possible developments, we have almost 7,000 new residential connections for water and wastewater demand that we know about right now. Of course, there's portions of your service area that haven't even been really discussed, and we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. But based on these projections, if you use 200 gallons or you use 250 gallons per resident per day, you're looking somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million gallons a day of water and wastewater capacity needed. When that occurs, you can project all day long based on projections we get from the developers. We're going to build out in a year, that sort of thing. We don't know if that's really going to happen. It's very, very unique times. One thing we don't want to see any of our clients do is overborrow right now. I think Hoschton got in a little bit of trouble back pre-recession the last time and borrowed some money for the wastewater plant based on some projections of growth that when it didn't happen.
It happened, it was just 10 years later.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right, that's right. So on our water supply side, you know, I always say we can build wastewater treatment plants all day long, but coming up with the water to provide clean water for people, that's the real challenge. And of course, we've been involved in a groundwater exploration project that's been going on for about 2 years. We haven't had very good luck with that. A couple of issues there has been a labor problem, and the COVID issue hit, also materials. We still haven't got the perforated casing that we've been looking for 8 months on one of the wells on the Perkle property. But they have had problems with labor, getting well drillers, getting well equipment. We had one 30-gallon-a-minute well on the Perkle property and one potential for about 100, but we've got to get the casing in there to see if that's really going to work.
That's a good one.
They've already. One thing we do have, we have we're pretty limited in our exploration area. Hoschton's fairly small geographically, and I think some of the other communities in Jackson County have had similar problems. If you find a property that the geologists think has a lot of possibilities, somebody wants to develop that land. They don't want a well site on it, so we've had trouble with that as well. But these projections showed somewhere in the magnitude of the year 2040, 2050, you're going to be at the 2 million gallon a day demand range. Again, based on some pretty conservative population.
What year?
2040, 2050.
There's always been a concern of mine when a developer comes to us and wanting to, whether it's annex or whether to build inside the city limits, do we have enough water supply to supply that development and sewer? How do we really kind of know when we're kind of getting close to a max of what we're able to provide as to what they're wanting us to provide for them?
Yeah, so if I'm a developer, I come in and rezone my property, does that guarantee me any capacity necessarily?
Right.
That's a good question we need to ask ourselves. I don't think it does anything to rezone the land.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that because, you know, most of these developers these days, they can't borrow the money from a bank to do a development until they get rezoning, until they kind of get commitment for water and sewer.
Right.
And so what Jerry said is completely correct, but there's another piece to that, is that, you know, if it's a small thing like what just went home behind the depot, ain't a big deal. But you got somebody coming in here that wants to put 1,000 units in.
Perkle.
But yeah, it's a prime example. You got to make some calculations and study that. I mean, 100 here, 100 there is not that big a deal, but 1,000.
Right.
Like these guys that had come to us. Now there's several potential sites in Hoschton North we annexed outside of the city. You could easily add, you know, thousands of units.
Sure.
But you know, we're not ready for that. I mean, it's
So once we go to we're at the 2 million gallon mark now, right?
No.
No, not yet.
No, sir. Right now, you have 500,000 gallons per day in wastewater capacity.
So once we get to the 4, we'd have to go off-site somewhere else, right? And build something else?
No, you have adequate property on your existing wastewater plant site to build out to 2 MCD. You have a waste load allocation for 0.95, right? We just kept it just under $1 million, and then you have another waste load allocation which allows you to plan for a project, which you're doing right now for 950,000 gallons a day for wastewater capacity. You have an authorization to discharge up to 2 million gallons per day in Indian Creek. I think we're talking about something we really need to get a handle on. We've got at all these projections of development, I think we need to see what we have committed to. And I don't want y'all to get in a jam down the road and have a moratorium, if you will. We don't wanna do that. We wanna kind of calibrate our, commitments as far as zoning and that sort of thing is concerned, and what our true capacity is and how that's all gonna play out. I think the biggest one you're committed to is, the culture development, for sure.
And Joe and we started these numbers last summer.
Right.
And I'm looking at these, Joe and I even talked about these, Monday of this week. And I asked Brett the other day, what are we flowing per day? I got from Karen, how many gallons per day? Or how many houses we have, to get a number of really our consumption per day. And, we're gonna work with Jerry, we're gonna fine tune these numbers on projected developments and really see, all right, how much are we using? How many more units can we put on? When will this next phase be finished? And I think that's a big question.
That's a big important,
that we
that's
all,
our next big step to
'cause
get
if
all
it
that
was-
calibrated.
if it was finished today, it would make life a lot easier for
Right,
us.
that's right.
And as soon as we get done with it, we're really gonna need to go into the next phase, cause we're gonna need it too to complete that culture development for sure, and the other pieces that's going on in Hoschton,
As long as the economy is strong,
as long as the economy is strong.
that's right, that's right.
But you told me, Brett's told me, we're flowing about 80,000 gallons a day right now, is what Brett told me this week. Well, in over, I think Karen gave me the number, it was 1,586 homes are on the system. Well, I divided that out, that's 110 gallons per dwelling per day. And a lot of that helps out because of the new low flow devices and stuff like
Helps a
that.
lot.
They want to plan for 200 just to have that buffer in there. But if you go and look at like Crestwinds, that retirement community of 1,300 homes, they're gonna use the least amount. I think that's pretty well proven.
That's right.
They don't wash clothes every day. They don't have 4 or 5 kids running around the house.
Right.
The dishwasher doesn't necessarily run every day, and they don't have, 10 or 20 showers going on in the house per day with a big family, like y'all probably do, I'm sure,
Go through a lot of
I bet
water.
your water bill's quadruple of what somebody's in.
Sure,
And the swimming pool.
And swimming,
Yeah.
that's right.
right.
So, and then two, we've got the townhomes at Cambridge Town Center Parkway. Well, that was 300 units, plus the other townhomes that have been approved. They're just 2-bedroom. So they won't have the population of people in them that a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house would, so their consumption should be a little bit less. And of course, any industrial stuff, I guess that really depends on what it's gonna be.
Right.
Is it gonna be just a warehouse building with some bathrooms in it for the employees or is it gonna be some manufacturing in it, where they might need a lot of water and sewer? You kind of just need to know all that up front.
Sure.
But Joe and I and Jerry, we're gonna fine tune these numbers very soon.
Yeah, I think we need to.
I need to-
Do a lot of data analysis and,
There's been a lot of people, even in the last 10 days, 2 weeks that I've talked to, that wanna come and do stuff, and we gotta get projections fairly accurate. But there's some of them that, wanna do the big projects, and I'm telling them, this may be 8, 10 years away.
right. Yeah, if you look at Brazelton and all of Brazelton's service area in 4 counties, their wastewater demand is just over 1 million gallons a day right now. I think they've got, several thousand sewer customers, they got a lot of customers.
Yeah, and y'all put that in perspective.
That helps kind of make us feel, and that's why we need to do some real data analysis on what the customers are really using, and when we get a better handle on where we are. We know we're good, we're under 200,000 a day. We know it's also gonna take quite a few years to get to 950, but we need to get that analyzed and figured out where we all have a good level of comfort, and I think we will. The other comparison is City of Jefferson. They have 2 wastewater plants, one at I-85, one in Central City. Central City runs somewhere 500,000 gallons a day. I-85 runs about 300, so they run around 800,000, all the city of Jefferson.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of folks, a lot of industry, a lot of commercial. So I think we're all right, but I don't have enough, we need data. We need to get down, like you were talking about, Mayor, and see what we have regular customers, our retirement customers, and the commercial customers, get all that kind of laid out and get a good handle on, okay, what's our real per customer, per day usage, what we've committed to and what we're gonna have going forward. I think it'll give us a level of comfort, but also, if you got the raw data, you've analyzed it, you have it, you can put it before the council and say, look, this is really where we are and where we're going, we can all feel good about
And I
that.
think we got enough trends going now.
I do.
What's going in there, we can get pretty
I
accurate
do,
data
I think
on
so,
all this.
yeah,
I do.
it's available.
So what's our next step at the plant, at the sewer plant? Put another clarifier?
You have, another whole treatment unit, clarifier, 2 clarifiers, upgrading the headworks, that's the very first piece of the wastewater plant where you, do all your screening. And what the plan is right now, James, is to, we know eventually Hoschton's gonna need 2 MGD. We're gonna go ahead and make the structure large enough to go to 2 MGD at the headworks, save that money now.
Yeah.
Cost you 3 or 4 times to expand that later.
What about that phase separator we took offline?
We're gonna auction that off.
I told James we should put it historically.
It looked good in
In
front,
front
yeah,
of
I'll
the
take
funeral
it.
Smithsonian.
in front of the funeral home.
Is there companies that come get that and just,
We get
Take
some
a
metal
landfill.
cost out of it,
Yeah.
maybe for the,
Scrap metal.
getting rid of
That's-
it.
That's
isn't
about,
it taking up valuable room?
that's about what it's used for.
Yeah,
They'll
it needs to
charge
go.
us to
It-
take
yeah.
it, it's not a win for them to
and
take it.
all of y'all may not know, I want you to follow this, cause
Yeah.
this next phase of the building down there, we're basically gonna double the size of the current plant, from $500,000 to .95. But that will be that whole plant will be doubled again to take it from that 1 million to 2 million. And we're gonna go ahead, all of this wastewater's gotta be piped all the way down to Sells Mill Park on Jackson Trail Road. It's gonna be dumped out down there.
That's right.
And that was the requirement, for all the way to that was even the million mark. But we've gotta take it all the way down there, but we're gonna go ahead and size the pipe
Right,
and everything for the full 2 million.
absolutely,
That'll be coming on board several years down the road.
that's right.
Is that because Winder was taken out at the Mulberry at the bridge?
No,
They
sir,
were-
we had we gave EPD several options to give us a wasteload allocation. We felt that they would not give it at the, Small Creek we were in,
Yeah.
in Sells Creek, we felt like it did not have enough flow to up it any. But we gave them that option anyway, they wouldn't give it to us, but they gave us a wasteload allocation at Indian Creek, just below, the mill, or at the Mulberry. And we didn't go to the Mulberry because it's gonna take a lot more money to get over there, number one. Number two, that would be above Winder's, water intake, not that we're giving them good water, but there's a big move in EPD right now looking toward what we call, indirect potable reuse, where we already do it now. I mean, Brasstown dumps, discharges 1 million gallons a day here. 6 miles downstream, Winder picks it back up and treats it as water. We're already recycling our own water.
That's what's wrong with Winder.
Now, wait a minute.
And then we're using the word reclaim, not dump.
Hey, we're probably drinking up Oakwood or something.
Yeah.
But EPD has actually published regulations now for indirect potable reuse water systems. Anything from 1 mile to 5 miles downstream is considered IPR, indirect potable reuse.
So we got enough space and property
Yes, sir.
right now at the
Yes, sir.
plant to do all this.
Yeah, and,
Yes.
so we're going in down there at Sells Mill Park. The side that the mill's on,
Yep.
the old gravel road that goes down through there, the discharge line will go right down the middle of that road, and we're gonna discharge in the creek below the mill. And I signed up that this past week, the paperwork was finished up, but Jackson County's giving us an easement to do that. That's a done deal. And the rest of it's gonna be on the right of way of the road, so we're not gonna have to get any
That's right.
easements, go through anybody's properties,
That's right.
nothing, so.
That's right.
That's the easy part of it.
How big a pipe will that be?
I think it's a 16.
Pretty good size, yeah.
And it's a force. you know, you gotta pump it over there, of course.
You kind of pump it up and then basically almost gravity. So
Yeah, once you get it up there to about
Not very
the
high pressure.
high point of Jackson Trail Road, it'll go.
That's right. And then once, at the discharge structure, that is a historic, area there. One of the things we propose to historic preservation that has to sign off on your project is we're gonna, rather than just have a pipe sticking out there and dump it in the creek, we're gonna build a waterfall feature there, artificial man-made waterfall. No, two things, it'll kind of diffuse the water, it'll give it a better appearance as well. But you'll be putting water in that, that stream that's actually clearer than the stream,
Yeah.
quite honestly.
After it runs through the treatment.
Yeah.
So y'all-
Gwinnett County every year holds up a glass of water and says, this is what we're putting in Lake Lanier.
Right.
And everybody off kind of questions that.
Well, they got a fish tank too, where their discharge goes in a fish tank that's got trout living in it. Got enough oxygen to support trout.
Yeah,
But your plant, Brasstown's plant, all the plants coming along now, they're gonna be producing a very high quality, water, that can be reused downstream, because we're hurting for water resources. Unless you're on Lake Hartwell, anybody in northeast Georgia is looking toward, where we're gonna get our next water from.
Yeah, are we doing any explorations right now? The city of Hoschton?
The last property they looked at, they went and did what they call geophysics. They walked over, looked at all the rock features, used some satellite imagery, and then they do ground probings for fractures on the Blankenship property. I have not seen that report back. I expect to have that back to y'all any day. What that would do, what that report would show, is some priority areas where they'd want to do some test well drilling.
What about, the well down there at Cole Hudgens? That was already there and we looked at and
Yeah,
did we make any progress with that?
We gave him a proposal basically that would cover that well and any other subsequent wells on his land. And then I think his law department has sent that back and we've got that under review. I think Joe's reviewing that, we're reviewing. Probably need to get, Ab to look at that as well.
Okay.
But that's got some possibilities. That looks like a good well. All the indications are that could be as much as 100 gallons a minute. But that's under review for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just, the well drilling's been real slow.
It has.
Yeah, exceptionally slow, but we've got places to drill. And, I mean, it's gonna take time, but I'm confident we're gonna have many wells over the next 10-year period that are gonna flow plenty of water for Hoschton. And, Brasstown has 9 wells,
They're using 6 right now.
6.
The one's at Gusher though, I correct?
Yeah, one's a good one, one's a
Yeah,
big
it says
budget.
100 gallons a minute. Well, it's 300 a minute.
It's up there.
There's 2 big ones that are about 150 gallons a minute.
How many-
22, okay.
How many do we have right now in Hoschton?
Well, we've got 2. The one down there at the ballpark and the one on White Street. And the one on White Street's been there since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Very good well.
Yeah, it's a great well. And there's one that's covered up right there in Town Green. That was the original well for
Okay.
Hoschton. Yeah, they covered up.
Jerry, how many gallons is the Cabin Creek well?
Cabin Drive is about 40, 44, 45. Not too bad. It was already drilled, so it was very worthwhile to go ahead and develop that well.
Well, our goal is to find something, 51, 52 gallons per minute?
Right now, I would say it was not real feasible to develop a well, unless you're in Helen, for under 75 gallons a minute.
Oh, really?
Costs a lot of money.
And y'all all know too, we buy water from Jackson County, we buy water from Brasstown today. And the Jackson County deal's up for renegotiating.
It is. I don't know if they're gonna send a new contract,
We're doing that right now.
because of service delivery. I don't think any of the cities have gotten new contracts from them. I think it expires in May.
Is Winders wanting to sell us water?
They are.
Yes.
They are. I I think you're at a very good, and this may be a good time to
For a
drift
good deal,
into that
too, and a-
discussion.
Quite a bit of contract.
Ma'am?
Winder wanting to sell us water.
Yeah, Barrow County really wants to sell water. Barrow's probably, I think that's our, as far as purchase water, I don't wanna turn anybody away. I'd like to be hooked on to everybody I could be hooked on if I were y'all, as Brasstown is. Barrow's probably one of our best prospects right now. They're one of the partners in the, Bear Creek Reservoir. They're about to expand that, water plant from 21 to 42 million gallons a day. Right now, Barrow has an allocation of about 6 MGD. They sell about half of that. When that new plant comes online, their allocation is gonna be 12 to 15 million gallons. They need to sell water. So I think, that's a very promising, matter of fact, they came in and met with us and we gave them some data. They're supposed to be coming back to the city. But I think that's a very good promise for competitive rates and longer-term contract with Barrow County.
How would they hook into our system?
We're already hooked into, at the Mulberry Bridge, it's an old line, but
The Winder.
we're hooked in, that's the Winder.
Winder is.
Yeah, but
Barrow's on,
Nothing at Covered Bridge?
Barrow County system ends on 211 there at, Old Hog Mountain at the roundabout on
Yeah.
the far side.
It's
So
not
that's still
far.
in proximity. You've got a line right there at the bridge. So I think either Barrow or Winder is gonna be a good source. And with your new tank, your elevation of your water system is gonna be at 1085. Jackson County's at 1066, and then they have such head loss, they're about 1040. So Jackson County's water right now will not fill your new water tank. And you have asked them to lease their old pumping station they had there on Jackson Trail Road, where you could just reconfigure that with new pumps and fill your tank.
Are they not using that at all?
No,
on
sir,
Jackson
it's been
Trail?
gutted. It's a nice building, nice site, but they won't lease it. They will allow you to upgrade, pull all the pumps and all the telemetry, all the electrical in there, and then turn it back over to them to operate and charge you for operations.
After we pay for it,
Yes.
to upgrade it.
So that's been a stalemate for about a year now. But if you get Winder water, or if you get Jackson County water, if you get Barrow, you're gonna have to boost it. All three of those are gonna require some boosting, not a whole lot, but some boosting. But you do have right at $400,000 from the SFR grant to build your booster station, but you don't wanna build 3. You wanna do 1
Yeah.
somewhere. So that's something that's really kind of a moving target for us right now. We have good opportunity with Barrow. We'll have to boost that water. Same thing with Winder, same thing with Jackson County.
So Jackson County wants just to make some money off of that pumping station there on Jackson Trail Road, and we do all the work and they maintain it and profit from it.
Right.
We talked to our county commissioner on that.
yeah, I mean, we just didn't get much cooperation.
It's
from
just
them
sitting there,
on
nobody's
that.
using
Yeah,
it.
nobody's using it, and it could have been better, but we got other solutions,
Yeah.
and at least we got some money to assist with that.
That's right. We've got a plan. If we do continue primarily with Jackson County, we would build our own booster pump station there on EMI Industrial. But I think in the coming months, probably in the next 3 to 6 months, I think you'll have a good idea of what we can expect out of Barrow or Jackson. But I would still stay definitely hooked on to Jackson for sure.
So to fill our brand new water tank that we built now, we'd have to fill it with Brasstown water, correct? And then the tank at the south end of the city would have to have a booster pump.
No, it'll be the same elevation.
Same
Because
elevation as-
Once you get it to 1085, you're gonna be great.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other possibility is if Brasstown did some minor upgrades, and primary source was from Barrow would be getting the system into the lower zone of Brasstown, 1085, same as yours. You could wheel all your water you buy from Barrow through Brasstown. not even put a booster pump in.
That'd be the simplest solution.
That would be.
Just go there all day long, wheeling, you'd give them a minor wheeling fee to go through their system and not have a booster pump. It cost, we figure, we did an analysis, in Rabun County, for instance, they have to pump water 3 times to get it up to the mountains. And we figured their cost is about 35 cents per 1,000 gallons just for the electrical cost. So you figure with your wear and tear on your pumps and everything, you're looking at 50 cents a 1,000 for pumping costs.
Just to move it.
And those booster pumps are how much?
Well, yours is not gonna be that bad because you're not lifting, like in Raven, we got
So
running
high.
200, 200 feet ahead. Yours is very minor pumps, they'd probably be 10 horsepower at the most.
That's
And
what's
see,
it-
once you top your tanks off, they shut down until they go down.
Is that what we have at Coulter? Those lift
You mean
stations?
the new tank?
No, the lift stations.
Different.
It's a different deal.
That's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different deal.
So water supply, I think, we've got a lot of possibilities. I feel a lot better about the water supply than we did 6 months ago. Because Winder's gonna have a surplus. I'm not saying that's gonna work out. They've got that big, joint venture project. Auburn and Winder are using the quarry, building a new water plant there. They're gonna have an abundance of water.
Where does that stand? I mean, how far are they from going in there to the river where we met with them about putting that dam in there?
Well, they've rethought that project. Rather than flooding 200 acres, they're gonna have a very small, coffer dam and a deflection, structure. And they'll only be able to withdraw when the river's up from a big rain or something, when it's, flowing in its shallow depth. They won't be pumping any water. But they're trying to get permission to survey and acquire some of that land in there. I think they've got a lot of pushback on it. I think it's gonna be a hard road, hard road.
I just imagine right there.
Their public relations from the get-go was a little
Yeah,
off,
it was awful.
and it's hard to get that back.
Does Auburn not buy water from Barrow County?
I think they're buying pretty much from Winder right now. See, the fun thing with Barrow is, several cities cut Barrow off about 3 or 4 years ago. Barrow was subsidizing their debt service with SPLOST funds that allowed them to artificially depress the water rate. When the SPLOST funds left, they raised the rate to 5.15, and that's above anybody's wholesale rate. They were pretty well cut off. So they're way down on water. I mean, Statham's not buying from them, Auburn's not buying from them, Brasstown's not buying from them. But with the water surplus they're facing now, they're really interested in, getting the customers back.
Wow.
But I think your water supply, you got so many possibilities now we didn't have, 6 months ago. And I still think we will develop some wells. If you look on this chart here, that kind of shows you where your water supply has been coming from. 2016, you were buying most of it, of course, from Jackson County, and a little bit from Brazelton, and then in 18, you got your, 2020, you got your wells on. So you see your well's a very important piece of that. But as you grow, right now your well supply, your groundwater supply or well supply is only about 150,000 gallons per day. So we want to see that come up. Possibilities, of course, on Blankenship, on Cole, Hudgens land. There's a map we'll look at here in a few minutes that has some areas we really need to look at down the road as far as potential for groundwater is concerned. Some of it's on the Coulter property that's still held by Hog Mountain. I think we've talked to them, but there's a few things that are kind of barriers to getting in there and doing any exploration right now. The other one's just off of West Jefferson. And then there's some over on the map property that could be possible. Again, we're kind of restricted in our zones that we can look water in because we're so small.
But the well that we're kind of exploring, but we don't have the casing for.
There is one well that looks like about 100 gallons a minute there on
Well,
Pearl.
that'd be a good one.
It would, it would.
And that's on the Purple property.
It is, and it's on the very southern tip. I think there's some of the land they're gonna be donating to you right by the park.
It was right there close to the park.
That's right, 117 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
So
What
we're,
happened to White Street well all these years? It's down?
Wasn't online.
Yeah, I didn't know they'd taken it out of service until, you know, about the time I came into office, and they were just bringing it back online then.
It had to be reworked, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we're talking about
Some
your money.
fracking was
it was in bad shape. Had some operational issues.
And pumps going down in it or something.
But 2020, it about did half the water.
Oh, I know.
That's a gusher, yeah.
If
Oh,
it
we're
they
making
shouldn't have to
money
grow.
off of that compared to buying it. I mean,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's the most definitely the way to do it.
You're in the 60 cent to 70 cent per 1,000 gallons with groundwater. You're paying 4 times that much from a wholesaler.
You can, wells are expensive. You correct me if I'm wrong, but the time we find a spot to put a well, drill it, hook it up to the system, close to about 400 grand in it.
Could be with piping.
That's
With-
if you find it.
If you,
Yeah.
but once you get it all done, you've got, you know, but you may try 3 or 4 places, and by the time you get one running, maybe 400 grand in it. But look at that White Street well. I mean, it's really been used for probably at least 50, 60 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, they will pay themselves back
Oh, yeah.
fairly quick, and I
Absolutely.
mean, and it's, everybody turns on a faucet every day. Tell me somebody in here that.
So they explored 3 wells on Purple, maybe just one good one,
I think they just did 2. There's 2.
or just 2? My gosh, that was 20, well, that was expensive.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it is 3. It is 3. Yeah. Yeah, I think at the time, we concentrated on the Perkle land and on the Hutchins land.
Yeah. Water's gold right now.
It is, it is.
Very true statement.
Very true. So looking at your, briefly at your, historical water and sewer fund and revenue expense, go back to 2011, you were, about $1 million a year system. Now you're, closer to 5. You're doing very well, very solvent. Good revenues, good operations. You'll see, what we call, one-time expense. That's the capital projects you've done in the last 2 years with your tank wells and all that. Most of that's been paid by either grants or connection fees. You had some borrowings on the White Street wastewater pump station abandonment. You had some debt on your wells construction. I think y'all have already paid those debts off.
Where's Jenny?
She stepped out.
Yeah, I think the only debt that we have left
A little bit of that GFA.
is that big
wastewater.
loan.
That's
Yes,
right.
because we paid all the small ones
Yeah,
off.
we paid off 2 of the small ones.
Jennifer, the end of last year, the only really water sewer debt that we have left is that big GFA loan, even though we paid it down some, but we got rid of all the rest of it.
Yep, so we had 3. We, paid the 2 smaller ones off, and then the bigger one, we did
We dropped it by like 1.2, 1.4
something like
million.
that. I mean, it was a significant number,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
There's probably not but about 4 million left on that note, maybe?
I can
3 or 4?
text Tiffany and ask exactly what we owe on it.
Okay. But we're in good shape.
You're in great shape.
We are.
Oh, we're in great
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah, you are.
What about that CBD, grant? Are we, I thought we was getting close to losing that thing if we didn't get rolling with it.
No.
Panther Court situation.
Yeah,
That was 600,000.
yeah.
That's a $600,000 grant. I don't see, as long as you're all making progress, that going away. We had one in Lincoln County that went on for 6 years.
Okay, yeah,
If you were just sitting down and not trying to acquire your easements and hadn't had your design work done.
okay.
I
Yeah,
think we got two.
but we're being active, so
Right.
they're okay with extending.
They don't want the money back. They want to see the
Something about
project
doing
done.
something with some rock, we hit some rock or something, right?
Well, right now, where we stand, we've got plans completed. Most of the permits have been issued to you. We have 2 remaining easements that have not been acquired
Yeah,
yet.
that's what it was.
One just will not cooperate, and the other house has been sold several times. We can't get the easement to the corporations quick enough before they sell it to someone else.
When somebody's not willing to cooperate like that, do we skip their property and go around to the next, or what do
Well,
we do, Jack?
if you can, if it was on the very first of the system, we could do that. If it's on the very back where we
Back.
want to convert everything to gravity, we don't have another avenue to go.
What do you do?
Well, I think the decision's pretty well been made to start making final offers and moving toward eminent domain.
Mhm. Going back to GFA.
Sure.
We have paid, 2 million on it, and we have a total, we owe about 3 million on it.
Seems like I remember the payment on that was, $35,000 a month,
29,000.
$29,000 a month.
Still
Yeah,
have
the-
Palmer and
And one house is a
and
rental.
one house that's a rental.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we've been trying to get these easements for a solid year,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
maybe a little over a year.
Oh, longer than that.
We've
Yeah.
been working on this
We,
18 or 19.
Our job number on this, this is one of our projects when we first
Yeah.
came to Hoschton, it's 13059 is the project number.
Yeah.
You know it by heart.
Oh,
We've
yes.
inherited that
Oh,
project,
yes.
haven't we?
yeah, it's hard to believe when you trying to help
Mm-hmm,
the residents in that subdivision.
mm-hmm,
And, some of them just ran to us and signed these things, here it is, please, let's get at it.
mm-hmm.
And then you get some people who are just like, no,
Dollar sign.
it's not like we're tearing their house down, we just wanna put a line underground in your backyard.
To hook
And
to your
didn't you
house.
offer something to them?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
Oh,
can
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
get money off of it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They just want more.
Yeah, there was a requirement to pay them a certain.
It
amount.
is, fair market value, absolutely,
But most of those easements were $1,500 maybe?
in that ballpark, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's how really insignificant it is.
Yeah. But if the ones that have had issues with their grinder pumps, they had no problem signing,
No.
didn't question it, because that's awful when you
It
have
is,
a backup,
it is.
so.
So our last activity there, the plans are ready, we could essentially go to bid right now. One thing we wanted to accomplish, since we have talked to Radio and some others, we have a concern for trench rock. We really like to quantify our rock. We don't wanna get halfway into this project and come back to you and say, we need another $200,000 for rock.
We wouldn't want you to either.
So we found, we
Appreciate
found,
not getting that call.
I have found over the years, my clients do not like surprises. So try to minimize those. So we did find some new technology. We're going in there with the old traditional method of drilling down to where the rock was, but we found I knew the technology existed. We finally found a company that would do seismic refraction, and we'd go in there and do a rock profile on all our lines. So when we get that back, basically those will be brought into the CAD drawings of your sewer system. It'll be implanted right on the profiles. And that way you can very easily determine the amount of cubic yardage we'll have for rock excavation. And at that time, we're going to completely re-estimate the project. That was estimated in 2018.
Yeah.
So we're worried about the increases in cost that we're experiencing everything now, plus fuel. And I wanted to quantify that rock, where I want to come back to this council and say, the estimate in 2018 was like $900,000 for this project. We got current bids, I know. Shannon's grimacing here. Yeah, I'm kind of dreading it too, but I want to know what that is. We need to know what
$1
that
million.
is. We need to know what that is. If we could have bid it that first 2 years, I think would have been okay. But times are very, very different now.
That's 600,000, go that far, we got
Yeah. It's
up
like,
them charges.
it's like that was gonna cover most of it.
I know.
Now it's
Now
not
it's-
gonna cover half of it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So looking at some possible action items here, on our water supply. We know we wanna investigate additional well sites in our primary zones. And I think, there's a map which we'll look at a little bit more. A lot of those are a little bit out of reach, but I think every one we can get into, we need to continue to explore with, Cole Hudgens property. Let's see what happens on Blankenship. There is a very good looking rock formations, I understand, along the Mulberry River in the Coulter development that's still held by Hog Mountain. Whenever we feel it's appropriate to approach them again. We did one time, but we think they wanted to get a couple of things behind them. And that's the one you see right here, the Coulter property. There's some about halfway up the Mulberry, in that development that is in floodplain, that is undevelopable property, that they're very interested in doing some well exploration in, whenever you think we can approach them again. And then continue negotiation with City of Winder. You know, to me, the more people you can have your system hooked up to for emergencies or whatever, the better off you are. Winder does have water. Continue working with Barrow County. I think we'll start seeing numbers from them within the next 2 to 4 weeks and start dialoguing and talking about that.
Jerry, back to Winder.
Sure.
You mentioned to me the other day when we connected to them on the bridge down there, that pipe leaked really bad.
Yes, sir, it does.
So, to my knowledge, we haven't bought any water from Winder in decades.
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay. So, I'm guessing there's a valve on the other side of the bridge, it's just cut off there.
It
most
is.
likely,
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Probably wouldn't be too much for us to reconnect to Winder, cost-wise.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you go with Barrow or Winder, I would relay that line probably under the river. That bridge is on a schedule to be rebuilt in the next 2 to 4 years. So you don't wanna attach to that bridge, reattach another line there, have to tear it out. Because what we find now